The only scientific evidence at the scene belonged to Brandon Gohagen. For advanced DNA testing, there was nothing that connected either George or Melvin to that scene. Nothing.
This next story is going to get you angry. I know it will. It's not. Could you imagine if two members of the same family, like not just one person, but two members, brothers, George and Melvin DeJesus, both get wrongfully convicted for murder and both spend 25 years in prison? Outrageous. And you heard what their attorney said. I mean, the evidence, there was someone that was good for the crime. But for whatever reason, prosecutors made some deal with him to implicate two innocent people. In addition, like, why do you need to convict 3 people if you got the person who committed the crime? Simon Shynet from our great affiliate WXYZ in Detroit has the story of the DeJesus brothers who are, thank goodness, free tonight.
The DeJesus brothers have prayed for this day for roughly 2.5 decades, and now they are thanking the Conviction Integrity Unit of the Attorney General's Office and the Michigan Innocence Clinic for proving their innocence. An emotional celebration for George and Melvin DeJesus and their families after roughly 25 years in prison for a Pontiac murder they did not commit. The men serving time in prisons in Coldwater and Ionia set free after a team from the Michigan Innocence Clinic spent 6 years to find new evidence.
This is the best day of my life. We're extremely happy. We're extremely overwhelmed. I want to say it's been a long time coming. And it took a lot of help. It took a lot of people.
In Pontiac, investigators say the two brothers were tied to a killing of a woman in July of 1995 after the victim was found naked in her basement with wires binding her neck, wrists, and ankles. But Attorney General Dana Nessel's team says while Brandon Gohagen confessed to the sexual assault, he cut a deal to blame the murder on the DeJesus brothers, despite them both having alibis at the time.
The only scientific evidence at the scene belonged to Brandon Gohagen. For advanced DNA testing, there was nothing that connected either George or Melvin to that scene. Nothing.
Assistant AG Robin Frankel telling us the break came by way of a fresh review, a closer look at Gohagen, who was later imprisoned in a strikingly similar case.
The prime witness was 20 years later convicted of a very similar event and sentenced to life in prison. And when we looked at those two cases and we saw this case and the new one were so similar, we started pulling at the thread.
She says a dozen more women were also found to have been sexually assaulted by Gohagen, and his credibility unraveled, especially as the only witness in the case against the DeJesus brothers. The Oakland County Prosecutor's Office has agreed with the new findings and the exonerations. Currently, the state's CIU has 1,600 other requests for assistance, as George DeJesus expresses his gratitude for those who never stopped fighting in the name of truth.
I want to thank the Innocence Project, Cooley. I want to thank Innocence Clinic and U of M. I want to thank the CIU Conviction Integrity, Dana Nessel.
These cases mark the 3rd and 4th wrongful convictions overturned by the Conviction Integrity Unit of the Michigan Attorney General's Office. Simon Shaquette, 7 Action News.
I'm amazed that the brothers can smile, but I understand why they're smiling. I can't smile about this tonight, though, because it's outrageous. Gohagen is the guy, right? And think about what prosecutors did here. By wrongfully convicting these two guys, they cut a deal with the other guy who gets out and kills someone else and rapes countless others, all those other victims, because of the actions of the prosecutor. I wonder if we should prosecute that prosecutor. Let's bring back in our think tank, Bernardo Villalona, Ian Friedman, Brian Watkins. You know, I'm hard on prosecutors. Bernard, I know you are too when they're not doing the right thing. Ian, should I be shocked tonight? Should I be shocked tonight by this?
I don't think you should be shocked. We see this all too often. I mean, while I'm thrilled for the DeJesus brothers, kind of, that they got out, they've lost 25 years of their life. I think back over the last 25 years of my life and just think about what they missed out. Well, I'm happy for them. I'm sad for all of those others who are sitting in cells right now because of mistakes in courtrooms, overzealous prosecutors, and many other reasons. This happens and it's real. And people who are not concerned with what happens in the criminal justice system, they should be for this very reason. People who don't do anything wrong can end up in a cell. And that means any one of the viewers of your program tonight. That's the sad, real reality of the criminal justice system.
Yeah, Brian Watkins, you're a former prosecutor. I mean, basing your case on the solely on the testimony of the admitted sexual assaulter, like the guy who sexually assaulted the woman who was murdered, and he's the one that gets the deal, and he's the one that you're going to believe and trust to point the finger, and then because you did that, another woman was sexually assaulted and murdered, and countless others were sexually assaulted. This is beyond outrageous.
It is, and I don't like the use of snitches. I don't believe them, but prosecutors do it all the time. You look at Sammy the Bull Gravano and John Gotti. Sammy admitted to killing 22 people. Sammy, John Gotti technically hadn't killed anybody, but he says, well, he told me to do it, and you let him go. And he gets out there and starts, dealing ecstasy while, John Gotti dies in prison. Now, I'm not saying both of those guys, I'm saying both of those guys should have been in prison, but here's the real problem. Think about it. A woman was tied up, sexually assaulted, bound, found naked, dead in her basement. A jury is going to want blood from someone. And that's what I was saying earlier. And so you're like praising these brothers, but at the time the crime was committed, people wanted justice. And we have a terrible justice system. The problem is it's the best of a terrible justice system. It's the best of the worst. We can't get it right all the time. A crime has happened. Someone was murdered. We got to figure out who did it. And the evidence points to these guys, and we convicted them. What do you want us to do? We can't solve every crime. That's the problem.
Bernardo Villalona, when you're in the shoes of the prosecutor, you have a lot of decisions to make. But to give the deal to the guy who sexually assaulted the woman who was murdered, I don't know. I just think he's the most likely suspect for the murder. Like, why would these two brothers come in and kill her after you sexually assaulted her? Makes no sense. It's beyond, they convinced the jury, obviously, of the whole thing, but you as a prosecutor are part of the filter through which all of this, you've got to figure it out, right?
Exactly, Vinny. This is so upsetting. I mean, my blood is boiling every time you say one word about this case, because the thing is that the power of the prosecutor has so much power and so much discretion. And I know one thing that I definitely emphasized when I was working as a prosecutor to the baby ADAs and the baby prosecutors, look, one day lost in jail is a day that a person can't get back, and that one day can change their life for the rest of their life. Now, just imagine these men who lost 25 years of their life. As a prosecutor, 16 years, I think I rarely ever used a cooperator. And the reason why is because cooperators are very desperate and are willing to do and say anything in order to get their end of the bargain. I really want to know, what corroboration did this prosecutor have to be able to make the decision that I am going to cut this man a deal to testify against these two other people? That's what I want to know, because there's no way that I'm moving forward on a prosecution without any outside corroboration that these people had something to do with it. I'm not basing it on your word.
Absolutely. And you have to convince a jury beyond a reasonable doubt. You, as an ethical prosecutor, should also be convinced way beyond a reasonable doubt that you've got the right person for the crime. Didn't happen here. Still ahead.